If you're thinking about buying in New Bern, North Carolina, or anywhere in Eastern North Carolina, there's a lot of questions that people do not realize that they should ask before they start the process.
And as the team leader of Keller Williams New Bern, I see buyers make the same mistakes over and over because they get their information from Google instead of a local expert.
So today, we decided to sit down together to ask and answer the questions that buyers in our local market here in New Bern, North Carolina are currently asking. I'm Nikki Rogers with Team Nikki Rogers, and today I'm here with Nelda, the team leader at Keller Williams New Bern. Nelda, what makes the New Bern market here different than other places?
We are actually nestled in between two other rivers and also nestled in between two military bases, which is wildly unique. So we've kind of evolved from a retirement community to a community for families, a community for young people, a community for retirees. But I think what makes us unique is we have a historic district, we have a waterfront property, we have a lot of military transition coming through here, and then we have people who leave New Bern and always come back. There's a lot of unique opportunity for real estate here.
Tell me why buyers should work with a local real estate agent versus an online platform.
So I'll probably answer this in a couple of ways. I think it's a buyer's agent's responsibility to really lean into working that client and making them feel as comfortable as possible throughout the transaction. And I believe our town is very unique, and because we do have waterfront property, and because insurance in North Carolina does look different than other states, there's a lot of impact to the financial piece of the transaction that can sometimes be missed, that local agents and local lenders know and can work together and make sure that there's not a missed opportunity. Buyers who don't work with local somewhere end up maybe distraught, or sometimes want to back away from buying altogether because they learn too late in the transaction that it doesn't cost what they thought it was, the insurance isn't what they thought it was, and things just don't get explained for our community the way they should be.
So when you start talking to a buyer, what is the first thing you tell them they need to do?
Oh, they always have to get pre-approved first.
One thing I see often are buyers starting their home search before they are getting pre-approved to purchase the home.
And I think there's going to be missed opportunity for the buyer if they don't understand what they truly can afford here. And that definitely comes from a financial conversation. A lot of buyers are coming from an out-of-state location. We are a feeder community. You know, taxes are different than other places, insurance is different, flood is different, and so that conversation really does need to happen locally and needs to be fully pre-approved so that they know exactly what it looks like before they get out and ride around and look at houses or stay on the internet looking at houses that are within range or without range.
Right. And I did hear you say local.
Yeah.
So it's not just getting pre-approved, it's also making sure that your pre-approval turns into a full approval with someone who lives in the community and understands the community.
From the lending perspective, I've always believed that lending is local, just like real estate is local. You and I've talked about, these are people we have to see in the grocery store. And when you have that level of commitment to knowing that these people are people we serve in our community, you really want to work hard to make sure it's right and to make sure the experience is something that you would uphold. So local is truly important to me. You cannot get to the same person at a 1-800 number, and the transaction is just too precious and so important for someone to not be able to speak collectively about how we move the buyer to closing. I think what I've learned on the buyer's agent side is that when you're dealing with a lender that's out of state or a 1-800 number lender, you're not getting communication and feedback. And so if the agent is not getting that feedback, it always has me question, is the buyer not getting that feedback? And I think this is just too important of a transaction to not be getting feedback about what's happening next and what is the next steps.
I heard you start talking about something that I'd like to dig in a little bit. You said insurance is unique in New Bern. And I think that's really important because there are 3 pieces to that puzzle where most people only have one type of insurance. So could you tell us more about that?
We are located between 2 really beautiful rivers, and that doesn't mean that all properties are in a flood zone, but it does mean that we do need to talk about the impact of flood and flood insurance. And flood insurance costs can range from $500, where something may not be in a true zone or a zone X, all the way to $3,600 or $6,000. And I'll disclaimer this to say, I'm not an insurance agent. We have a person that I trust wholeheartedly to talk about flood. And again, that's a local person who we can call at moment's notice, and they'll always jump in to help. The two other types of insurance is just your standard homeowner's insurance. But then North Carolina, because we are located near the coast, you have to carry what's called wind and hail, and that's issued by joint underwriters in North Carolina. So for a lot of people, these costs are extremely reasonable. They're just unexpected. And again, that's why having someone local explain what that looks like and how those things work really starts from the very beginning. Because I've seen people get shocked by what the cost of insurance is, even though they're moving from a state where their taxes were 3 times as much. So it's more about setting the expectation and having buyers and sellers understand what the makeup of the transaction looks like.
Yeah. And I think what we see is someone that's coming from another state that goes to an online lender to get their pre-approval, which is just whatever they put in the system spits it out. And then they get rough numbers, and it's based on one insurance policy and not 3. And so then they're shown a payment, and if they have high taxes, maybe they have a $3,600 payment, but they're so excited because their payment's going to be $2,000. They're like, yes. And then they're so disappointed, even though they qualify, when they know that that payment's going to be more. They qualify, and they would have been fine with it to begin with. It's just you're, promising the moon and the stars, and then you're letting them down at the end, versus when you work with someone local, you're setting the proper expectations. And I always say, I'd rather than be pleasantly surprised.
Once a buyer becomes disappointed, it's really hard to recover from that. We want them to be happy throughout the transaction. And then the other impact, which you may find out too late in the game when you have online pre-qual or pre-approval, is you have somebody now under contract, and now you find out what real costs are. And unfortunately, for a seller or for a listing agent, it's not easy to recover from that. Transacting and negotiating a deal only to find out that a borrower is not truly qualified burns time on market for a listing. It also costs the buyer money because they've put up due diligence and earnest money deposits. So it's more than just, it is how we make people feel, but there is a financial impact to getting it right from the beginning. How are things today when buyers are looking to buy, because home affordability has been so important lately? What do buyers need to know about down payment and what opportunities are out there? Yeah,
that's a good question. So the misconception is that you need 20% down to buy a house. I would say a very, very, very small pool of people actually put 20% or more down. Most of our buyers, what we're seeing are 100% financing, meaning 0 down. How they're doing that is they are doing it based on the loan type, such as VA and USDA requires no down payment. That's 2 of the 4 most common programs. Then the other 2 is conventional. It's not 20% down. It's 5% down, or 3 if you're a first-time home buyer, which is way less. FHA is 3.5% down. Again, not 20%. But what we're doing is we're taking that and coupling it with a program that North Carolina provides. It is called down payment assistance. There's 2 different programs. One is for first-time home buyers. It's $15,000 that is given as a no interest, no payment, maybe down the road forgivable loan that they can then use towards their down payment and closing costs. A lot of those clients specifically are walking away with their earnest money and deposits back. So what that means is you go under contract on your new home, and you're going to put deposits down. You're going to give 2 different deposits, and whether, say, it's $500 and $500, and then when they go to the closing, they get that money back. I would say 50% of our clients are actually getting the money back that they put down at the closing table because they qualify for no or low down payment programs, as well as the assistance that's out there in North Carolina. That is very generous.
I think that's encouraging, especially as people have been struggling over the last few years with where interest rates are and the amount of inventory that's available, and this constant news media talking about affordability. Super encouraging to hear that there's some things we can still get over, and that down payment and being able to get into a home with relatively little to no money down is really encouraging.
Yeah, absolutely. So something that comes up a lot, because everywhere is different, and as we've said, that a lot of people are moving to our area. So once I get them fully approved, one of the first questions they ask is, okay, now how long is it going to take me to find a house? I know that I can tell them how long it'll take us to originate the loan from the time they're from contract to close, but that piece where they're fully approved and now they're house hunting, what are you seeing in our area?
First answer is that the National Association of Realtors follows this trend and this statistic, and the range of how long it takes from start to finish currently is at 10 weeks. It's gone to 12 weeks and on average. I would say that's probably pretty common in this area. New Bern is really unique because we have affordable, maybe less than 300,000 properties. We have less of them, and we have properties that go all the way up to over $1 million and plus. So I do think it depends on price range, because it really depends on what someone's looking for, and it is unique to neighborhoods and things like that. So on average, if the right property is there, it can be 1 day, 1 week. And then becomes, from the real estate side, what happens for the buyer is the inspections, the appraisal, contracts and things like that. Those are things that happen within a couple of weeks. Then we're also partnering with, do repairs need to be made and things like that. So on average, it's really, really up to the inventory. We're in a very stable market. There is still some limited inventory, which does make it a very unique opportunity for sellers right now. And at the same time, there's a unique opportunity for buyers as we're trying to drive and bring more inventory on. So hopefully that gives people a good idea.
What actually excites me, because one of my largest objections for getting people fully approved is they don't want me to pull their credit yet. Because they're not ready to buy. They're just talking about it, and they don't want us to pull the credit because they're afraid of how long the pre-approval will last. And it's interesting, when we're in a market that we're in right now, that's fine, because the credit report is good for 120 days.
Right.
And so what I just heard you say is that in this market, we have enough time to get them fully approved, to find the house, even in the worst case scenario of 12 weeks. And because we've gotten them fully approved, we're closing these in under 30 days, more like 21. And so with that being said, if it's in that spot of where the inventory is and where most of our buyers are buying, that's encouraging for me, because that means that, my clients can get fully approved and not have that fear of that expiring. Eliminating that fear and letting them know that the probability of it being lasting as long as they need through the transaction, that's exciting.
For a buyer who's out there wondering about how long it will take, I have to say our team's working really hard to make things happen in our community and not wait for things to happen. The second piece of that, in regards to local pre-qual and pre-approval and having credit pulled and having everything done up front, is when I represent a buyer, when our team represents a buyer, we want the strongest offer that we can put forth, because sellers do have a unique opportunity to kind of sit and wait on things a little bit. They know that there are some inventory challenges, and they can wait for a stronger offer. So our job is to put the strongest offer available, and how we do that is by saying someone local's reviewed this loan transaction. Here is the pre-approval letter from someone local that we trust, and we get the ability to put best foot forward when we're making an offer.
The first thing that, as she already said, that she's going to tell them to do is call a local lender to get pre-approved, fully approved. And so when they call me and they say, hey, I am not moving for 12 months. Maybe they haven't finished school, or they have a job. They already know the date that they're going to be here. Typically, that excites me, because I have the ability to soft pull credit for all 3 bureaus. So I encourage them to still submit the application, and then I can soft pull the credit, which means that it will not have a hard pull to impact their credit score on their credit report. And then I get to see how we can make it better. One of the unique things that I take pride in is that we don't just help people learn about their credit to qualify. We help people move their credit for their financial benefit. What that means, if I pull their credit and I see that they have a 660 credit score and I know that they're going to be getting a VA loan, I could just stop right there and say, you're good to go. Don't change anything. But I have an algorithm that can show me how to get them to 7+. And to have a 700 score with a VA loan, I'm right off the bat, you're going to have probably a quarter lower of interest rate as well as true cost. So being able to be in front of it as soon, you want to get started as soon as you know it's even in your thought process, because then I can assist you and help you learn about credit so that we can put you in the best financial picture so that when you go to purchase, you're getting the best rate with the lowest cost. Nelda and I really hope that what we talked about today helps ease your mind and your worries if you're moving to New Bern, North Carolina, or anywhere in Eastern North Carolina. I hope that this encourages you to go ahead and get pre-approved. I hope this encourages you to be excited about moving, and that it encourages you to, really pre-plan before you get here. And if you're ready to talk through options and look at what you've got going on, our team is here to help. We'd love to help you. Call us, email us, text us, smoke signals. We're here for you.
If you're looking for a local agent in Eastern North Carolina with a fully vetted team to work for you, think Keller Williams of New Bern.